Alright guys, I'm going to do a video explanation for the last part of our review. We are going to talk about some keywords and some steps and things you can follow when dealing with word problems, especially when they're talking about angle of elevation and depression. So let's just talk about the vocab, angle of elevation. Oops, let me change that. Angle of elevation. This is when the angle is above the horizontal line. So angle is above horizontal. I'm going to abbreviate that line. Now, angle of depression, this is when the angle is below the horizontal line. Now, both of these angles are congruent or equal to each other. So, for example, let's show, let me kind of give you an illustration. So, I need to probably change my fonts. Let's do that. If I have a horizontal line, like such, to create the angle of elevation or depression, let's start with depression. The angle has to be below the line. So you're going to have this diagonal line of sight, and the angle would be here below the line. Now, all horizontal lines are parallel. So if I just kind of added another horizontal line with that black line, that diagonal line, the angle of elevation would be above that horizontal line. Okay, so these two angles are congruent because they're alternate interior angles with the parallel lines. So it doesn't matter which one you use. I say always just make a right triangle with this horizontal line and just always use the angle down here because it's going to equal the angle of depression. And also just make sure you use your angle, or you mark your angle with the horizontal line. So I'm going to kind of probably focus on the evens here, talk about some with diagrams and some without. So the key to this is read your word problem maybe once or twice, and identify the key information. So it says we have a small plane that begins descent at a 9 degrees descent, starting from a height of 1125 feet above the ground. Okay, and then it wants us to find to the nearest tenth how many feet from the runway is the airplane to start of its approach. So they've already kind of did that for us down here. They went ahead and marked our X. They also went ahead and showed our vertical height above the ground. So they gave us the angle of descent, which is the angle of depression. And that angle is the same as this angle here. So what I'm just going to do, and what you do is, anytime you have a right triangle, put that horizontal line, you're going to put the angle above that horizontal line. So now if I continue with following those 5 steps, because once you get it drawn, let me go back to what I'm talking about. Then you're going to follow these 5 steps to get to your answer, to get to your calculations. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to mark this angle. So that's the 9 degrees. The parts I have, or if I go across through the triangle, this would be the opposite side. This would be our adjacent side. So I have to determine which trig function deals with opposite and adjacent. So that goes back to that acronym for TOA. Okay. So because I'm looking for an O and an A, talking for the tangent, so I would write my trig equation as the tangent of 9 degrees equals the opposite part, so 1125 over the adjacent, which is the x. No, that doesn't look like a 2, but it is. All right, so again, our x is on the bottom, so we divide to solve. So really, I'm going to switch these around. So x equals, I gotta change my font, sorry. 1,125 over the tangent of 9. And so this is your calculator, excuse me, ready information. So you have to go to your calculator. You would have to type in 1125 divided by the tangent of 9 degrees. You can close the parentheses or not. You hit enter. And we get this large decimal here. And they want us to find the feet to the nearest tenth. Okay, well, since I have a 9 and then a 7, this 9 is going to round up to 10, which will round up this next digit to 2. So our answer would be 7,103 feet. Okay. So when I check, I'm going to check your labeling, of course, your setup, and then get to your calculator ready. Now, so this problem, the diagram was already given to you. You're ready to go. You're just kind of making sure you're doing the right steps. Now here, you're going to have a diagram sometimes maybe not fully completely labeled. So it says they want you to find the angle of elevation of the sun from the ground to the top of the tree. The tree is 10 yards tall and casts a shadow 14 yards long, round to the nearest degree. Label the picture. So here we do have to label the picture. So the key information here is for finding the angle of elevation, which is our x. They already gave us that. But then we know the tree is 10 yards tall, so we would need to put the 10 here with the vertical distance. If you want to label your units yards, and cast a shadow 14 yards long. Shadow is going to be on the ground. So it's like if this tree was here on the ground, and then it would have cast a shadow, right? And that shadow is 14 yards. Okay, not that you need the shadow, but understand it's on the ground, right? All right, so now we're just following our steps. We circle our angle. We label our parts in relationship to the angle. This is our opposite again, and our adjacent. Then we determine our trig function. This is tangent. And we write our trig equation. So this would be the tangent of x equals 10 over 14. Well, because x is inside the triangle, we have to use the inverse. If it's inside, if the variable is inside, you use the inverse. And so we're going to get the x, we have to do tan negative 1, 10 over 14. Okay, and that's calculator ready. That's what we have to type in. So when we go to the calculator, to get tan inverse, you got to hit second, then the tangent button, and then we're going to type in 10 divided by 14 to get that ratio. And then hit enter. Now, since we're finding the angle, we're going to round to the nearest degree, and it says that in the problem. So that's the nearest whole number. So this is 35.5. So if I round this, this becomes 36 degrees. So our answer here is x equals 36 degrees. Okay, I should have did it down a different color maybe. X equals 36 degrees. Okay. So you go from labeled picture to partially labeled picture. All right, so then to no picture. So here's what the key is. That all of the ones that there are no pictures given, like 21, 23, 24, okay? And we'll do another one because I don't think there's a picture on the back either. Yeah, okay. So anything that does not have a picture, you need to always use a right triangle. So doesn't care if it's to scale, you need to create a right triangle always for all of the ones, like I could go ahead and draw this over here, that do not have a picture to them, okay? And it doesn't have to be to scale. All right, let's talk about 24. So then start off with your right triangle, then read the given information and label it based on what it would be on the triangle. So since we have a 22-foot ladder leaning against the building, forms a 37-degree angle with the building, how far up the building can the ladder reach? So if it's leaning, this would have to be the ladder leaning, right? So this is 22 feet right here. It forms an angle with the building. The building has to be over here, obviously, right? That makes sense. Building up and down. So this angle is 37. And it says how far up the building is the ladder. That's this vertical distance here, right? All right, so when I do this, I have this angle, circle the angle. This would be the adjacent part. This is your hypotenuse where the ladder is leaning. If I'm dealing with adjacent and hypotenuse, that's cosine. So I do cosine of 37 equals adjacent x over hypotenuse 22. Now, because the x is on top, right there, that tells me to multiply. So 22 times the cosine of 37. Now it's calculator ready. You're going to plug that in. So when you go to your calculator, you hit cosine. I'm sorry. You hit there. 22 times the cosine of 37 degrees. And hit enter. And we went to the nearest tenth of a foot, so 1 decimal place. So that 5 next to that is a 6, so that's going to get rounded up. So my answer is 17.6. Wait, did I do that right? So nearest tenth, it was a 5. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So get in a habit. We'll do that on the next one. If there's no picture given, draw a right triangle and then label according to the given information. So like if you look at 26, another one, no picture given. Okay, I'm just going to start off with a generic right triangle. So there's a person at the top of the lighthouse sights a boat in the water. The angle of depression is 55 degrees. If the lighthouse is 80 feet high, find the distance from the base of the lighthouse to the boat. So the boat is in the water. I'm talking about distance from the base. Base is usually at the bottom, right? So we're trying to, and we're saying like this is our boat somewhere here, okay? We're looking at that distance. We need to find that distance. So that's our unknown, so that's x. Now this is the angle of depression. But remember I told you your angle of depression is the same as angle of depression. Let's add this on here. I'm going to abbreviate. Equals the angle of elevation. So even though it says depression, I'm putting it with the elevation, which is with the horizontal line right there. And I'm going to label that by 55 degrees. Hope you can see that in there. And then it tells us that the lighthouse is 80 feet high. Height is vertical distance. That's up and down. So that would have to be here. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is circle the angle, label our parts. This is my opposite. This is the adjacent. Determine our trig equation, our trig function from this. Opposite adjacent means that we have tangent. So I'm going to have tangent of 55 equals the opposite part, 80 over the adjacent, which is x. X is on the bottom. So that means I'm going to divide to solve this. So I'm just going to switch these around and put the tangent of 55 at the bottom. I'll put the x on the left side of the equal sign. So this is calculator ready. This is what I was going to plug in. So we're going to go to 80, then divided by the tangent of 55. And hit enter. And we get 50.016. They want us to the nearest tenth of a foot, which is this point O right here. And next to that is a 1, so I'm not going to round that up. So my final answer here, my x is 56 feet. Okay. So here you have a partial labeling on 27. And then you're going to finish 21. So you're going to draw a picture and label, draw a picture and label. Get in the habit of drawing a right triangle. Doesn't have to be to scale. And anytime it says elevation or depression, put the angle there in the bottom left corner. Okay? Unless it's saying an angle with the building. Building is vertical or pole, then that's different. So read these, label them, work them out. This is what I want you to finish. The review is due today. Before you leave class, I will change the timestamp each period to check to see how we're doing and completing the review. And then you'll have, let me see if I can open that up real quick. Hold on. Okay, I was going to show you the link to the review set, but it's not working right now. So I'll just do a separate video and maybe make a playlist for this to do that. So, but you at least have what you need to finish the last section, which is the word problems. And as you're working through, if you have a question, you can always message me in the chat or through mine. All right, thanks, guys.